All right, class, in this video, we're just going to simply work with fractions as decimals, writing fractions as decimals. And this is an important skill. This really goes backwards from pre-algebra, so this is review, but it is a very important skill. And I think a lot of times I have found that students don't realize what something like this actually says. This says 5 divided by 8. This over here on this other example says -1 divided by 3. Now, if you didn't realize that, that's important. That bar, that fraction bar, it is division. We're dealing with rational numbers, and that's in a different than the number classifications video. We talk about rational numbers. Both of these examples you see on the screen right now are rational. They're a ratio of one number to another. In this case, it's a ratio of 5 to 8. Well, how do I get this into the form of a decimal? All right. And as I've said in other videos, this is important for you to learn some of these examples. All right. So why don't we do this? If it's 5 divided by 8, well, then let's actually divide 5 by 8. All right. How many times will 8 go into 50? All right. We're going to go in 6 times, which is 48. We're going to subtract that. There's 2. I'm going to drop my 0. That's going to go into 16. There's a 4. I'm going to drop my other 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. Now, 5 times 8 is 40, so now I'm at zeros. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to write these just for argument's sake. This thing is going to terminate in zeros. And so the answer, 5/8, is equal to 0.625. That's my answer. And that is what we call a terminating number. That is a terminating decimal. All right, it ends at 0.625. It doesn't repeat 0.625, 625, 625. It repeats in zeros. And so we would call it terminating. So 5/8 is equal to 0.625. I would encourage you to remember this one. Lock this one in your brain. What about -1/3? Hey, how about you just disregard the negative for a moment and just divide 1 by 3. Now, we know what this is. This is going to be 0.333. So we're dealing with repeating, right? Because we know that 1/3 is 0.33 repeating, all right? 0.3 repeating. Now, you can do the longhand division there if you like, but hopefully this is another one that you want to remember. But wait, I said disregard that negative. I just didn't want to write the negative inside this division bar. So we know that our answer, because it's negative, this is technically a negative divided by a positive, right? We know that that gives us a negative quotient in this case. So it's -0.3 repeating. All right, so we're writing -1/3 as a decimal, -0.3 repeating. Now, in a separate video, I think we use this example to go from a 0.3 repeating back to a fraction. All right, and so you can check that video out. Let's look at one example. What if we've got a mixed number? Here's something interesting. Right tucked in between these two is actually a plus sign. And we don't write that, but it's literally 2 plus 2/3. So now the great thing is if I remember that 2/3 is 0.6 repeating, then I could write this, couldn't I? I could write 2.6 repeating and call it good. But what if I don't know that? Well, then that's when I have to come down and say 2 divided by 3. Okay, that's going to go, 3 is going to go into 26 times, subtract my 18, and you can already begin to see the pattern repeating. Okay, so it's 0.66, 0.6 repeating, and I'm going to have to add that to 2. So 2.6 repeating. You could also convert this to an improper fraction. Now, this is a mixed number. To convert that to an improper fraction, one method is to say 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So 3 times 2 plus 2. Now, this is the 2 from the numerator. This is the denominator times the whole number. So that's going to give me 8/3. All right, 8/3. Another way to do that would be to say, how can I write 2 with a denominator of 3? Okay, because I want to keep it a denominator of 3 because I know to add fractions, this plus sign here is the same one that's there. I have to have a common denominator. So how can I rewrite 2? Well, I could put a 6 over it. Isn't 6 divided by 3 2? Yes, it is. 6 plus 2 is 8, and either way you get 8/3. Okay, what happens if I divide 8 by 3? Okay, 3 is going to go into 8 2 times. There's 6, 2, drop my 0, and there it is. There's that repeating number. Pull my decimal up, 3 goes into 20 6 times, and we've already shown this over here. That's going to be 2.6 repeating, which is exactly what I knew it was because I know 2/3 is 0.6 repeating. All right, so that's a lot of information. You've heard me say in class, if you're with me at school, fractions are our friends. Look, you got to get comfortable with fractions. If you're going to be successful in high school math, you're going to be successful in algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, and beyond, you need to start getting comfortable with fractions, how they work together, how they relate to decimals. All right? This longhand division, hey, it might not be that much fun, but you need to be able to know how to do it. So review this video. Let me know if you have any questions.